A big round of applause. I'm going to bring up our NAHREP president of Los Angeles, Mr. Edwin Acevedo. Get some good noise out there.
Good afternoon. What's up, members? NAHREP Los Angeles. How are you guys doing? All right. That's right. The left side's going to have a lot of energy today. I'll tell you that. All right. So I'm going to do the welcome because this event is a special event. It's not your typical event where we have top producers on the panel. It's more about learning about the community and what's happening around us. And we're here in Los Angeles. We are the chapter of Los Angeles, so it's only how would you say? It's only noteworthy that we have to do this type of event. So with that said, I want to present this event on behalf of me and the board of directors. And it's called The Changing Face of Los Angeles. And the chapter is committed to bringing you impactful events that will help you grow your business, expand your professional contacts, and provide you with meaningful information. Our board is made of a strong team of professionals who volunteer their time to bring value to our NAHREP members. The board has worked very hard to organize this event, which includes a powerful lineup of speakers and panelists who will share their expertise with all of you this afternoon. In addition to the work of our volunteer board members, the Los Angeles chapter cannot bring you these type of impactful events without the support of our sponsors. So please join me in a round of applause to thank all of our sponsors listed on the screen. And I want to add a note to that. Our board of directors have done a magnificent job in getting this event together. I mean, you have to understand, we are volunteers. We don't get paid for this, and for them to take time away from their daily jobs and putting the time on putting this event together, it means a lot. And I want to thank them personally myself for that. So another round of applause for our board of directors. So today's event sponsor is New American Funding. And so I wanted to have everyone please welcome Yvette Ortega as we review a brief video. And with that said, we're going to get Yvette Ortega up here on stage so she can speak for a bit. Yvette? There she is. Round of applause. We also got Daniel Carrillo. A round of applause for him as well.
Hi, you guys. My name is Yvette Ortega with New American Funding. This is my branch manager, Daniel Carrillo. We're excited to be here to support, of course, RE/MAX Innovative. Thank you very much for having us and inviting us. I was hoping to get that.
Guys, thank you for everything. We want to be able to help you guys grow your business. We would like to sit down one-on-one to show you what is the different value that we bring just besides closing deals on time and answering our calls. We work Monday through Sunday. We are not the typical guy that you're not going to be able to get in touch after 5 p.m. So give us an opportunity to earn your business, and thank you for being here.
Also, we're going to be raffling. We're going to have a really great raffle at the Mixer. So come see us. I believe it's from 5 to 7. So I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Monica Villamil, NAHREP Los Angeles Vice President, and I want to welcome you to this event. I wanted to ask everybody, I see like a lot of people on the back, and maybe if they can join us in the chairs. We have a great panel coming up, so I want to invite you to take a seat and just join us for the next speakers. So can we have you sit down, guys? Thank you so much. I have the distinct honor of introducing our keynote speaker, Ana Guerrero, the Chief of Staff for Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti. When I think of strong, powerful women, Ana is certainly amongst most powerful. Ana Guerrero serves as Mayor Eric Garcetti's Chief of Staff and directs all functions of the Office of the Mayor. In addition to Anna's work at the helm of Mayor Garcetti's Back to Basics agenda, she's a primary driver of the administration's work to advance gender and social equity. Prior to joining Eric Garcetti's staff, she worked as a community organizer in both rural and urban communities. Anna is no stranger to the housing agenda. In Sonoma County, she organized an affordable housing campaign that led to the development of hundreds of affordable units for low and middle income families. Anna's personal experiences with poverty as an immigrant from Mexico and as a young single mother on public assistance influenced her work every day and fuel her firm belief that government and civic activism can create pathways to opportunity for those willing to work hard and dream big. Please join me in welcoming Ana Guerrero.
Buenas tardes. Otra vez. Buenas tardes con más ganas. Come on. All right, that's much better. Thank you, Monica, for that very kind introduction. I am very, very thrilled to be with NAHREP again. Last time I was with NAHREP was in the South Bay with your colleagues over in Long Beach, and you were all de gala. It was a wonderful event in Long Beach, and it is my pleasure on behalf of the mayor to welcome you this time to my city, to Los Angeles. I would like to begin my remarks by thanking NAHREP and your incredible leaders, LA Chapter President Edwin Acevedo, who I met today, and board members Rose and Monica, for assembling this powerful and very distinguished group of Latino leaders. I'm very proud to be a friend of NAHREP. You are business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, all who have achieved great success. And you have done that all while never forgetting where you came from, never forgetting your roots. Whether you're an immigrant who arrived just a few years ago to this country, or your family has been here for generations, you achieved the American dream through hard work, discipline, and simply put, lots and lots of ganas. Ganas is in the DNA of NAHREP members. I got my personal ganas from my dad, who first crossed the border when he was 12. And for over 60 years, he picked apples, he trucked apples, he sprayed pesticides, worked really hard. And whatever he did, he took great pride in a job well done. He taught me pride in work, loyalty to family, and to never leave my community behind. He passed away a few years ago, but was able to see me become chief of staff to the mayor of the second largest city in America. I would call him while I was campaigning for Eric Garcetti, and I would talk to him about my work. And I always have his words of advice in my head. Échale ganas, mija, dale duro, or his most insightful words of wisdom, ponte en chinga. And I think that about sums up what NAHREP is about. Your members work hard as individuals to make sure that as individuals salen adelante, while working hard together to make sure that our collective community is also moving forward. I was perusing your website yesterday while thinking about what I wanted to say to you today, and I was struck by the content that NAHREP is sharing with its members. You're providing critical information about finance and economic policy, while encouraging your members to become politically active on issues such as education and immigration. It made me think about an article I read recently about the Latino elite. Now, I know we don't typically think of ourselves as elite. We were raised to be bien educados, to be humildes. The idea of being elite is not something that's in our nature. But since the theme of NAHREP today is the changing face of Los Angeles, I think it's time that we embrace our power in this city and across America. Because it is possible to stay humble, to stay humilde, while wielding our influence for the greater good. Because we are elites in this room, in the best sense of the word. We have within our grasp the ability to make positive change in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our country, And we are ready and willing to use that power to build a better, fairer, more equitable society. And we can start by seeing how far Latinos have come and what we can do now to create future generations of Latino elites. We can take pride in the facts and figures, some of what we just saw today in the video. A Latino population on the rise in both numbers and influence. The percentage of Latino entrepreneurs that has more than doubled in the last 20 years. The growing number of Latinos in executive positions at major companies. Like last month, when the Los Area Chamber of Commerce, for the first time in its history, appointed a woman as its CEO. Her name is Maria Salinas. The face of the business community in Los Angeles County, the face of the business community in the third largest metropolitan economy in the world is a Latina face. She's not here, but let's applaud for her anyway. She actually just returned from a trade mission in Asia with my boss, Mayor Garcetti. So she's either struggling to stay awake or taking a nap because that time change is not easy. What makes Maria Salinas and all of you unique is that you are using your success, your elite status, to benefit the Latino community at large, to actively grow the Latino middle class. The research bears this out. The Latino elite is using its social, economic, and political resources to help other Latinos earn college degrees, to start small businesses, and to build wealth. Latino elites are giving money to nonprofits that help our children excel in the classroom. They are establishing scholarship funds, and in the case of NAHREP, helping Latinos realize the dream of homeownership. And slowly but surely, we are making progress. According to the Pew Research Center, over the past decade, the Latino high school dropout rate has dropped dramatically, falling from 32% in 2000 to 12% in 2014. Latinos are also making big inroads in college enrollment. While we are still behind other groups, in 2014, 35% of Latinos aged 18 to 24 are in a 2-year or 4-year college, up from 22% in 1993. Our achievements in education will only increase our economic power. In 2015 alone, Latinos had an estimated after-tax income of more than $688 billion and contributed almost $215 billion to U.S. tax revenues. But we still need to do more. The work you are doing to bring resources to Latino communities is important and it's necessary, but it's not enough if we want to solve what may be the greatest challenge in our society today, the economic inequality that we see in California and in this country. Latino elites like you have started to amass remarkable economic power, and you have deployed your power as community leaders. Now we need to continue to expand our political power so we can elect leaders who will fight tooth and nail for our communities. The number one reason I am proud to work for Eric Garcetti is that he shares my belief in the power of government to open doors of opportunity. And he is committed to helping people walk through those doors by earning their way to the middle class, by working their way out of poverty, by building up a secure retirement. And we've taken big steps to create those opportunities in the 5 years that he has been mayor. We've raised the minimum wage, we've more than tripled the number of summer youth jobs, and we made community college free in Los Angeles. We passed Measure M, which will finish our public transportation system and eventually reduce that traffic we were just complaining about, and create nearly 800,000 middle-class jobs. And we're doing everything we can to stimulate construction of affordable housing, which I know is what NAHREP is all about. And I want to thank our former commissioner, Maria Cabildo, who will be on the panel later, who was a Garcetti commissioner on our citywide planning commission, who helped to start a lot of what I'm about to talk about. So thank you, Maria, for being here today. So the mayor set a goal of permitting 100,000 new units of housing by 2021. So far, we've already permitted over 80,000. But we all know that our homeownership crisis is caused by two factors: the severe shortage of housing on one end and the unaffordability of housing on the other. Here in the city of LA, we're doing our part to tackle both of these issues head on. We are scaling up our affordable housing programs with new resources. We launched a new transit-oriented communities program, also known as TOC. This program dramatically increases development incentives around key transit nodes in exchange for including a percentage of affordable housing in the development. The TOC program will represent one of the biggest expansions of our housing capacity in more than a decade. We're also encouraging Angelinos to build accessory dwelling units, granny units, those little casitas where you put your suegra in the back, by helping homeowners to pay down their mortgages if they agree to house a fellow Angelino in their garage or their back house. In the last year and a half alone, we've already received more than 3,000 applications to either build or legalize homes in garages or backyards. That's actually very cool. There is no question about it, LA's economy is strong. You can literally see the city's infrastructure change before your very eyes with each new high-rise downtown, with the Expo line connecting South LA to the job-rich West Side, and our boulevards making way for more walkable, mixed-use, and sustainable development. Construction valuation is the highest in decades, surpassing $8 billion in this fiscal year, totaling $35 billion in new investment since Mayor Garcetti took office. But that economic strength does not mean much if it leaves too many of our communities behind. That's why the mayor is helping to double the production and preservation of affordable housing for low-income neighborhoods. Last year, we launched a new policy that requires market rate builders to either include lower-income housing in their developments or pay a fee that expands our city's affordable housing programs. This new program, called the linkage fee, will finally give the city the resources it needs to not only build more affordable housing, but to preserve existing affordable housing and expand our home buyer assistance programs. In fact, we've already been able to reopen the moderate income purchase agreement program that we had to close during the recession. We've provided more than $24 million in direct assistance to aspiring homeowners and another $23 million in tax credits. And of course, with the more than 400,000 low-income families across the city living in unstable housing situations, this just isn't enough because there isn't enough affordable housing to go around. That's why we're also focused on improving stability in renters' lives by enhancing our rent stabilization ordinance and making sure that tenants know their rights. Our office will soon be launching a program that educates immigrant communities on their rights, because we've seen a lot of landlords threatening immigrant renters with eviction just because of their immigration status. And finally, we can't have a healthy housing market unless we strengthen the safety net that catches those that fall out of the housing market and into homelessness. In 2017, nearly 7,000 homeless individuals in LA were Latino, a 63% increase from the previous year. Nuestros ancianos are elderly, they're also facing the threat of homelessness. Last year, we saw a 22% increase in homeless people aged 62 and older, while all other groups saw a decline. That's why the city and the county are driving forward an unprecedented effort to build thousands of units of supportive housing with on-site social and mental health services over the next decade. We're already seeing signs of progress in this effort. Overall, homelessness is down in the city of LA for the first time in 9 years. So as you and NAHREP all work to help Angelinos realize their dream of home ownership, know that you're not doing this alone. Mayor Garcetti and his team, we are right by your side. We're in this together. Thank you so much, NAHREP, for all that you do. I look forward to working with you to organize our fellow Latino elites, to invest in the Latino community, to grow the Latino middle class, to create future generations of Latino elites, and to elect and hold accountable progressive leaders that move the Latino community and all of Los Angeles forward. Gracias y adelante.
Okay, Yana, thank you so much. It's been an honor to meet you. And in behalf of NAHREP Los Angeles, I'd like to receive this certificate of recognition. And thank you so much for everything you do in the city of Los Angeles and for your support to NAHREP.
Muchas gracias.
Now please join me in welcoming our preferred sponsor and fellow board member, Rosanne Delmain from Bank of America.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ana, for supporting us. We're so happy that you were here. As Monica said, my name is Roseanne Gelmain, and I work for Bank of America, and I'm also a board member of the LA chapter. Bank of America has been a longtime partner of NAHREP, and the bank and NAHREP have many goals that are in common. We're both committed to sustainable homeownership in all of our communities. I'm grateful to have the support of Bank of America in my role as a chapter board member. And our support goes beyond financial. At Bank of America, we believe in making financial lives better through the power of every connection. And so part of what we do is we make sure that we provide those connections to partners such as NAHREP. One example of this is when, as I became a board member, this was really instilled in me as part of my work ethic with Bank of America. And also, you know, my father is an immigrant. He was a master networker. He's been gone for a while now, but my dad, with first grade education, sat on the board of Pan American Bank, and you know, he went to the School of Hard Knocks, and I watched and learned from him, and learned that, you know, not to be afraid to ask people what they do, and more importantly, to support what they do, because then they will support you. So one example of that is the bank's awesome partnership with Univision. And thank you to our friend Jim Coronado, who's here in the audience. He's been very supportive of NAHREP Los Angeles. And so when we asked him if he could, you know, invite Gabby Tessor, who's going to facilitate our first panel, he always says yes. So we want to thank Univision, and it's my honor to introduce Gabby Tessor. She's a 4-time Emmy awardee, and maybe more. I know the Emmys just happened, so might have a few more on her mantle. She received the Best Anchor recognition by the prestigious Los Angeles Press Club. She's also a Tally Award recipient. Gabriela was recognized also recognized with the Otithi Award, which is the highest honor that the Mexican government gives outside of Mexico's territory to individuals who have aided, empowered, or positively affected the lives of the Mexican nationals in other countries. I've met Gabby, and she's supported several Bank of America events, and I know that she is well deserved of that award because she has impacted our customers' lives and my life in particular. So I'm very glad. In my eyes, Gabby's not just a celebrity. She is part of my Latina network. And so please help me in welcoming Gabby to the stage.
Thank you. How are you? ¿Cómo están? Buenas tardes. Muy buenas tardes. Qué gusto estar aquí con ustedes. Everything and anything that can help support the positive outlook for Latinos families is my business, and it's your business for sure. So today I'm very happy to be introducing to you a wonderful panel, and I'm going to start right away. I want to remind you that at the end we're going to have questions and answers, so please, we're going to have time for Q&As, so write them down if you want to, and wait for that time. We're going to be ready for that. And I'm going to go right ahead and introduce our panel so we can give way to this wonderful conversation. I want to introduce, first of all, Kristen Chen, Senior Relationships Manager for Bank of America Commercial Real Estate. And Ms. Chen works with commercial real estate developers and investors to deliver financial solutions for the bank, and she has closed over $1 billion in commercial real estate loans and evaluated over $5 billion in transactions during her career. Thank you, Kristen, for being here. I want to introduce next to Alfred Fraijo. Hi, Alfred. From Shepard Mullen Partner, and he is partner with that Land and Use and Natural Resources Practice Group in San Francisco and Los Angeles offices. He's a team leader for the firm's Latin America Practice Group, and I want to highlight he has great experience in obtaining and negotiating land use entitlements for complex housing and mixed-use development projects throughout California. We've seen those popping up everywhere. So thank you, Alfred, for being in our panel. Next, I would like to introduce Maria Cabildo, 2019 Loeb Fellow, Harvard Graduate School of Design. She's an urban planner who became affordable housing developer through her desire to stabilize and revitalize Los Angeles' disinvested communities. So I want to welcome her also because she co-founded the East LA Community Corporation, and they call her like the protector of Boyle Heights, should I say? But yes, exactly. She has done a lot for that wonderful area. I want to highlight also that in your programs, you're going to see the name of a fellow colleague of mine, Brittany. Brittany Mejia. Brittany Mejia couldn't make it today, unfortunately. She had some situation that didn't allow her to join us today. But I want to say that Brittany was invited because as a reporter of the LA Times Metro Desk, she covered a particular issue that actually pertains to all of us. She zeroed in on Lincoln Heights. Lincoln Heights is or was the heart of the Latino community. And this is important because as Latinos, we want to just go back and look into where did we settle as immigrants? Not only Latinos, but Boyle Heights being founded in 1870 something, it's a very old city that has right now a lot of our elder Latinos living still there with houses that are dated back to, 100 years old. But I don't know, Maria, do you remember 103 years old houses in Boyle Heights? Yes, for sure, right? Yeah, that can be. I'm going to move over to that chair. I'm not sure if somebody can help us with this desk and move it backwards a little bit so I can sit there and we can all join in the conversation because I know from that corner you cannot see these chairs. So I'm going to move over there. Hello, I'm here now. Oh, fantastic. Now we're going to have a good conversation here. So I want to start with Maria precisely talking about these particular areas, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and our families and our elders living still in those houses that are just beautiful, beautiful little gems. Yet sometimes they have a complication. They cannot necessarily afford those houses anymore, yet you want to develop those areas. How do you find common ground in those areas?
Well, it should be a really simple answer, but it's actually very complicated. And you're right. I mean, we have these communities that have traditionally been affordable communities for a very long time, communities like Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno to some extent. And as the housing pressures throughout the city have grown, people who have been priced out of neighborhoods like Silver Lake, keep going further east. And we do have these homes, like I think of places like my mother's home, right, where she's kind of house rich but cash poor, right? That's very common where the value of the home exceeds really, you can't afford to actually buy the house that you're living in, and that happens to a lot of us. And I think one of the challenges right now is that it's become, I think, increasingly difficult to find common ground. And I think, Alfred, you've been in the crosshairs of a lot of that, on the east side of Los Angeles. And I think it's been exacerbated because for some reason we're just not communicating with each other as well as we used to be. And I think because of the economic downturn, things were just so tight. And some of the resources that used to be available to people to remain in these neighborhoods were shut off. And there's been continuing disinvestment by the federal government in communities as well. And Ana just shared the reopening of this program to support moderate home ownership. I mean, that is a really big deal because those things weren't available for a very long time. So I think that, with the type of leadership that Mayor Garcetti and his team provide, I think there are opportunities now that the economic situation is improving to look at ways that there might be investment in these communities to keep long-term owners. I think this idea of thinking of these elderly people living where they are kind of house rich, but cash poor, and with the opportunities created by the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, ways of helping and really providing, I think, what's the best way, like scam-free opportunities. You know, when I was very active, and I'm sorry to be going on for a long time, but
No, go ahead.
I was very, my organization was very active during the foreclosure crisis. We provided a lot of foreclosure prevention services. And it was very hard for homeowners that were facing foreclosure to distinguish us, a legitimate HUD qualified housing counselor, from people that were trying to take advantage of them and commit fraud. And I think the same thing has to be looked at for the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, right? I think people are getting flooded. My mom is getting calls. Don't you want to add a little house? And how do we know what's fraudulent and what is a legitimate opportunity that, you know, the city is creating to help elderly people like my mom create maybe an accessory dwelling unit. So I think if there are ways that NAHREP, nonprofits, government can really have kind of like a seal of approval, like these organizations really are there to help you when you're looking at accessing the accessory dwelling unit, I think that would be very helpful. But I think opportunities like the ADU are potentially an opportunity to create kind of some bridging so that people can stay in the neighborhoods that they're familiar with. Because I think one of my fears is that, you know, the reason that families have been able to stay is because they've built social fabric. And when they move to the Moreno Valley or Lancaster where it's affordable, they lose that social fabric and their quality of life diminishes. So sorry, I'm very long.
No, it's good, it's good. It was a good beginning because still we recognize some areas as hot areas, going back to Silver Lake, going back to Echo Park, going back to those wonderful, beautiful cities that where we want to keep, you know, the flavor of the city, yet we want to also develop new opportunities. So this question for you, Kristen, as a Senior Relationships Manager for Bank of America Commercial Real Estate Division. So you've worked with developers and also investment companies. So how do you really, what are some of the hottest real estate investments in Los Angeles markets? Are we talking about those same areas? Your microphone, please. I'm sorry. Thank you, Kristen. It should be hot. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. It's a great question. And so as a Senior Relationship Manager at Bank of America, I work in the Commercial Real Estate Banking Group. We serve large developers, investors, private equity companies, and help them grow here in Los Angeles through providing construction loans, acquisition financing. So we have a chance to really work with all the movers and shakers in LA on the big projects and see what's happening. So as all of you know, we've seen a huge resurgence in downtown Los Angeles, West Los Angeles, Playa Vista. And what we really find is the areas where there's the greatest growth, it's usually driven by the economics in the market. Where is the job growth coming from? Where is the transit-oriented development that's bringing more jobs and business to the area? So the projects that we're largely involved in are in downtown Los Angeles, as well as on the west side, in East LA, Inland Empire. We're seeing a lot of growth, frankly, throughout all of Los Angeles. The economy here is so robust right now. This is really, it's a great story to tell. The economy is so diverse in Los Angeles. Everything from all of the trade that's coming in through the port, all of the technology jobs that are being created on the west side, all of the e-commerce that's driving a lot of the economic growth in the Inland Empire, healthcare jobs. The story is really positive, and that's attracting a lot of capital to this region. So you have lots of investors that are buying properties throughout California, whether they're investors coming from Asia, South America, New York, all over. Everyone really wants to invest in this region because it is such a strong and vibrant region. So frankly, I think that there's great growth opportunities everywhere in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. So you would say Los Angeles County and the 6 surrounding counties or 8 surrounding counties, we're all in the hot market right now?
I don't think we look at it as so much, what's a hot market. Bank of America is very focused on responsible growth. And, we look at what are the areas that are growing jobs, where are incomes, going up, where is unemployment low, and frankly, all of, Southern California, LA, Riverside County, unemployment is extremely low. The bulk of the job growth this past year has been in Southern California, so it's a very positive story for all of us here, whether you're coming from the IE or the West Side or Long Beach.
And I wanted to highlight one of the NAHREP just recent annual State of Hispanic Home Ownership report. I don't know if everybody was able to read it or had an opportunity to read the whole thing, but it really says, Daisy Lopez says, the president of NAHREP in 2018 says, Hispanics are expected to drive growth in the housing market for decades because they present those increased home ownership attainment factors, population increase, as you say, household formations, and workforce participation. So to you, Alfred, what is the best way that the real estate professionals can actually take part in all this?
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and to be with you all. Shout out to Roseanne, who invited me, so she's responsible for me being here in case I say something that's controversial. And Frank Williams, too. Shout out to Frank for being a good friend and inviting me to be here with you all. This is always, for me, a special moment when I'm surrounded with a lot of Latinos that are, like Ana Guerrero mentioned, are hardworking, passionate, and kicking butt in the real estate field. So kudos to you all, and thank you for the honor to be here. I really think, in terms of what the opportunities are out there and how we can get more involved, Gabriel, I think that's what your comment sort of really touches on. And for me, it's, they're really, to tie the comments from my fellow panelists on the issue of, how do you kind of balance attention around community stabilization and where the growth opportunities are. We really know that the growth opportunities are in communities that are historically been underinvested, as you see the pricing and the constraints on land opportunities in, say, downtown increase. People are moving east. They're moving to Boa Heights. They're moving to Lincoln Heights. They're moving to Chinatown, in areas that really, in my career as a land use attorney, we haven't seen. And where I think professionals like yourselves can really have a role is really in the information economy. It's very critical that we, as Latinos, as real estate professionals, are up to speed on all the various different tools that the good work of the mayor and Ana's team and other cities, and frankly the council members, have put forth to provide for both economic opportunity and development, but also neighborhood stabilization. Oftentimes I'm working with my clients, particularly in the residential field, in connection with the issue of displacement, right? If you're buying existing product out there and looking at the value add, which is code for how do we increase rents from the units that we're purchasing. And that's fine, that might be a noble pursuit for some people, but trying to inject a little bit more of, again, with the information that and the knowledge that you might have about opportunities and incentives that are currently in the books for redevelopment, being able to use those tools and say, actually, there's a strategic value for you to think about neighborhood stabilization in a different way, to think about perhaps covenanting or restricting those units that currently exist as affordable, to be able to generate additional development value or additional floor area or additional density. And that's really where I operate, in finding those connections and finding those opportunities where there's not a quick deal to be made, it's a more sustainable deal to be made. And frankly, as we get more scarcity in terms of land, finding those creative ways to both generate value and create a sense of place for the residents that are still there is really going to be a competitive advantage for you all. It certainly has been for me.
Monica, I'm sorry, Maria, I wanted to ask you, so you guys have worked on many redevelopment projects precisely in Boyle Heights. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have done. What are you proud of? What are your worries today about that particular area?
Sure. So Just to I guess, clarify, so I founded East LA Community Corporation in 1995, and I stepped away in 2015 at its 20th anniversary. So for the last 3 years, it's been on its own, just doing its own thing, and I've actually completely stepped away from it. Alfred is still on the board, so I know it's in good hands. Yay, thank you, Alfred. So really, we started in 1995, and I think that, what we know, especially in the real estate field, is that things are in cycles. And so when ELAC was founded, we were actually addressing the Resolution Trust Corps. We had Resolution Trust Corps properties, and it was through the savings and loan crisis. So there was nearly a vacant property on every block in Boyle Heights. And so we actually started as an organization, as a home ownership organization, and we worked with youth, and youth would help us rehabilitate these single-family homes and then sell them to first-time home buyers. So we started that, and then we realized we knew exactly what kind of families we wanted to sell to, right? We wanted to sell to low-income families, maybe making $30,000 a year, which you could do in the 90s. It's unbelievable now. But what happened was when we found those families, they were really years from being ready to be a homeowner because of credit, because of savings, because of their employment. And so then we started building rental properties. So ELAC has developed both single-family homes and rental properties using conventional financing, and then also using federal programs, including the low-income housing tax credit. So just really complex projects, and they've just become more and more complex over time, right? And so when we first started building multifamily, we were building 5-unit buildings, and I think now their latest projects are maybe close to 100. And the projects, when I left, our largest project was 60 units. Wow. So really a variety of units. And really, ELAC, I was always trying to figure out how to increase home ownership because I just really believe in home ownership. I would get criticized by a lot of my peers in the affordable housing rental field because they're like, well, Maria, when you create a home ownership unit, it's like one family won the lottery, and when you build an apartment building, hundreds of families are gonna benefit. But I really feel that home ownership is so important because really it's the main vehicle that Latino families are able to build wealth.
Yes,
And,
that is exactly what we, Maria, for that. And I want to ask Kristen, what consideration are given to the impact of the local community at real estate investment may have? You know what, no, let me backtrack. I want to ask you about the risks because I know that Bank of America has very stringent, rules and regulations so that we try to minimize precisely the risk.
So,
Microphone, please. Sorry.
At Bank of America, we've learned a lot, since the last recession. And, as I mentioned, our mantra is really responsible growth. And, one of the things in preparing for this event today and looking at the NAHREP 10, I was so happy to see, the goals that this organization has. And, it's so aligned with the way that we think in terms of, making responsible decisions, whether it's with home ownership and real estate investment, not taking on too much debt, planning for the future. That's the way that we look at real estate transactions. Every deal that comes across my desk, we look at the who, what, where, and why. Who is the sponsor that's bringing us this project? What kind of experience do they have, constructing this particular type of office building? What are the economics behind it? Is there demand in this market for more housing? Are the rental rates that they're expecting to ask, are those in line with what the rest of the market is? You don't want to have someone build something that's just incongruent with the rest of the market. So we really look at the credit metrics of the deal. We look at, what the rental rates are and how that will support the debt service of the loan. We look at, what the, base case projections are, and we look at what the downside is. So for those of you that are investing in real estate, and you're running your, calculations to figure out how much rent you need to cover the mortgage, just like we would, you would be looking at what your expectation is and then also the downside. You know, if the property has to be vacant for some period of time, is there going to be enough money there to cover the debt service so that you're not falling behind on the mortgage payments? And the great thing is that today in this market, we're better prepared, so much better prepared than we were last time around. You know, today versus in 2007, only 18% of homeowners in California could actually afford their homes in 2007. Today, it's around 35%. So, you know, incomes have gone up, but people aren't over leveraging themselves like they did last time around. So the same way you guys look at risk is the same way that we look at risk as well.
Good, good. In a conservative way, trying to minimize the risk and exposure, of course. Alfred, can you actually tell us a little bit about, we've been talking about Los Angeles and our area, but you actually have like a lot of experience also, let's say, in San Francisco and other major cities. How do we compare? I mean, are we up to par? Do we have similar problems and solutions for situations?
Great question. Anna's gone, so I can be critical of LA now. No, I think that I have the benefit of working across California on very interesting projects, and I will say that most of the issues are very similar in terms of what our clients are trying to achieve and the kinds of constraints we have to deal with. Where I think that some jurisdictions might be sort of breaking new ground or trying to incentivize and spur new development that's equitable, I do think that folks are really looking at the cost of doing development in terms of getting projects permitted and getting projects through the Department of Building and Safety and other departments in terms of their review process. Because that's really a big barrier for a lot of opportunity in terms of getting projects to market. And frankly, in an indirect way, it disadvantages poor communities because most of the developers that are willing to assume that risk and that cost of a protracted entitlement process are likely going to be in areas where they are experiencing significant return. And the areas where there might be additional risk or the cost is high for a major project, they're not willing to take that, assume that project because the return might not be as high. And I think that our communities don't benefit from that. So that's one thing for us to be mindful of, that actually the process, because it is very laborious, might disadvantage the investment, not only the investment of new development, but frankly the investment of infrastructure is another key challenge that we have, that I think that communities and jurisdictions that are actually looking at what their role is in spurring responsible development and how they can put skin in the game. I think specifically about cities like Oakland and other cities that are looking at how do we improve the public realm, not just in certain communities, but in communities throughout our jurisdiction. How do we also improve infrastructure? How do we think about infrastructure in the way that we do it in my field is it's multimodal. What we mean by that is that it has multiple functions. That we know historically a lot of our poor and communities of color have been just disproportionately impacted by, say, freeways or other kind of infrastructure. How do we reuse those facilities in a way that actually not only improves the air, improves walkability, improves green space, access to green space, but also might spur some responsible development? So then the last thing I would add is where I see a lot of opportunity is also cities that have taken a very thoughtful approach to regional planning and community planning. That's really where you eliminate a lot of the sort of checkered approaches to development. It's a way of doing a community-based assessment and a more responsible growth in terms of where it should be located. And ELAC, to Maria's credit, and other organizations are really taking up that helm and saying, let's be more proactive about how our neighborhoods govern their own destiny, where we're not reacting to individual projects, but we're saying, you know what, we're going to take it upon ourselves to really plan our communities and put that input forward with the cities and hopefully get those kinds of community plans, overlays adopted for future use.
So, absolutely. So, in other words, I want to say NAHREP in their annual report highlight a lot of the possibilities and the optimism and the positive outlook that we are seeing here. However, there's also a barrage of a lot of articles that talk about how Asians, African Americans, and absolutely Latinos are, as you said, Alfred, disproportionately affected by not being able to access, just buying a home, period, right? So, Maria, how do we approach this community that might be eligible for that, to go and buy a house, to start saving for that? How do you, because you've been involved also in all the other arena and political approach, community approach, for the longest time, how do you talk to them? Specifically those millennials that are so disenchanted all of a sudden. They're like, owning a home with all those bills? Are you kidding me? I rent here, I rent there, and I'm gone. Right? How do you talk to them and tell them, yes, owning a home is your way to make money, period, right? Is there a way?
Oh, God, I think one of the challenges is that I don't think they're being unrealistic. I mean, it is so out of reach for so many people, right? So I think they're justifiably skeptical. And I think one of the things that we did when I was at ELAC was really, we thought about home ownership wasn't always the goal, the ultimate goal. Part of the goal was just engaging people so they could be on what I called kind of a financial engagement continuum. And home ownership was like a stop on the continuum, but there was also business ownership. There was just having a savings account. There were so many families. One of the reasons why I started the homebuyer education program at ELAC was that so many families would lose their housing because they didn't have enough savings to deal with when their car broke down, someone got sick. Then if they had to deal with repairing their car or paying a doctor's bill, they suddenly didn't have the money to pay the rent. And so then they were out on the street and they were evicted. Right, so we realized that we had to provide financial literacy and that kind of preparation so that people realized we need to build up this account. And we actually incentivized savings. We actually paid people to save. And it was actually a partnership, I think, with Bank of America, where we would actually incentivize people, if you save $50 this month, we're gonna give you $5 too. So we were basically giving 10% of their savings. So I think we have to engage people exactly where they are in that moment and talk to them about what their financial goals are in that moment. And their financial goals may be saving money to go to community college. They may be something else. But as long as we start engaging them about financial products and being part of this kind of financial engagement continuum, like financial literacy continuum, then that was the most important thing. So I think we just have to learn to meet people where they are, not where we think they should be, with homeownership as like the ultimate goal.
And yeah, go ahead, Alfred. Yes, that's up.
The other thing that, from my perspective, is important to keep in mind is that we all understand that there's a housing shortage, right? We all understand that the expectation over the past 20 to 25 years was that we needed at least 50,000 new units to be built in the Los Angeles, the regional area, LA County, and only about half of those were built over that time. So you can imagine a combination of that gap in addition to the population growth is a significant challenge. And so when we talk about these incentives and talk about the new opportunities that have already been mentioned, for the vast majority of those new programs and incentives, we're talking about rental housing. We're not talking about home ownership. And I think it's incumbent upon us that we continue to remind our elected officials and the folks that are the policymakers is that they need to focus on home ownership, not just rental or multifamily housing or affordable housing. And in regards to that, one of the biggest barriers is the fact that, number one, incomes are not growing, right? We have an affordability gap as well in terms of what households can afford in terms of housing. In San Francisco, for instance, in terms of being able to own a home, over 73% of the residents of San Francisco can't afford it. Over 67% of residents in the city of LA can't afford to buy a home. Imagine that, 67%. And so how do we fill that gap? Number one, we have to build more houses that we can sell, that you guys can sell. Number two is that we have to partner with financial institutions to provide some incentives and think creatively about how we can get more people into those doors and owning homes. One of the things that we've been exploring with the working group that I have is the concept of 0% down, which is not relatively new, but it actually is pretty revolutionary. Imagine that, where we haven't had a kind of a set of education or a set of sort of practices y costumbres in our families about saving to buy a house. We don't have the luxury perhaps to do it, but now we find ourselves with a decent job, with a college education, with the acknowledgement that yes, capital creation through home ownership is a legitimate American dream goal, right? And we deserve that as well. So how do we partner with our financial institutions to be able to give us greater flexibilities and greater programs and tools for us to be able to own the homes? I think that's another kind of key component. How do we partner with financial institutions, both big and small? When you're the broker for a client of one of the agents in the room, thinking about making sure you do your homework to talk to CDFIs, for instance, that are also exploring in this area that could potentially make that, bridge the gap, so to speak. I think that's another way to do it.
Well said, Alfred. Thank you for that. Kristen, I want to ask you, so in your opinion, what are the greatest challenges and opportunities, as Maria and Alfred have shared? You were nodding, so I know you want to share some stuff.
I certainly can echo a lot of what you've both said. I mean, I expected today we'd be having a conversation about the housing crisis, in LA. It affects so many people here. No matter what, people are working so hard, unemployment is so low, yet rents are just totally out of control. People are paying, oftentimes over half of their income towards apartment rents, and, it's just not sustainable, and it's not a quality way of life. It's such a complex issue. And that's why it's such a big problem that doesn't have an easy answer. It's so complex, There are so many different types of solutions which can help in one facet, but then may hurt in another. So I don't know the answer, but I do believe that, the financial education is a big piece of it. Certainly home ownership allows people to build wealth. When you're putting the money into a mortgage, paying down the principal on a loan, no matter what, you will accrue wealth. And when you're just going through making rent payments every month, you're never going to benefit from that. So it's just really important for homeowners to or people who are trying to become homeowners to understand, understand the financial literacy, understand interest rates, understand, the markets that they're going into. As you're buying a home somewhere, figuring out, is this a location where property values may go up in the future? Is it an area where property values could go down? We are in a rising interest rate environment. Fortunately, long-term rates are relatively low, but interest rates may continue to go up, and that's something that people have to be prepared for. So that doesn't help the affordability crisis, that's for sure. But, now that unemployment is so low, I talk to my clients and other people in the industry, and wage growth is starting to go up. It is starting to pick up. And, the economists that we have at the bank and outside that we talk to, people feel good that there will be, good wage growth in the near term. So hopefully that's, one part to helping the solution.
There's so much more to talk about. I think my time is up, and we have questions and answers, so we're going to have questions and answers. Anybody questions, please raise your hand. We have about 3 questions to over here, please. And I don't know if we have a microphone ready. Do we have a microphone for out there? But I would like to invite the person who wants to make a question over here. Oh, you're gonna take one of the microphones? Take mine. I'll take his. Oh, okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Over here, please. Thank you. Oh, it's not ready.
Testing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the information. It has been very, very useful. And my question is to Maria. Maria, you mentioned the program where to build a casita or to convert the garage. I think it's an idea that is late coming, for the community that I service in order to make the homes affordable. Many families are already doing that, but by having the program implemented, I think there will be a way to ensure that that type of work is done properly. It doesn't create any health issue problems. But my question to you is, what communities are going to be able to benefit from that type of program?
Sure, it was actually state legislation. So it was actually passed at the state level. And so by passing it at the state level, it means that actually every single city has to allow the construction of accessory dwelling units. And they're not allowed to create any ordinances that are more restrictive than, I keep looking at him because he's the lawyer.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I've got my law right. So every city, some are more active than others. And I think you have to remember that there's cities that have a lot of capacity, like the city of LA. So it has an ordinance. The County of Los Angeles has also, I think, developed, if they haven't already adopted, they have an ordinance. Smaller cities don't have the same capacity, don't have the same staff as the city of LA, so they might be a little lower, but it's actually at the state level, every single city has to allow the construction of accessory dwelling units.
And I'm just trying to think of all the cities that I have worked in where there actually is a pre-sale inspection to ensure that garages are not converted, to ensure that if there is any type
of... the actual legislation allows for the conversion of garages.
Yeah.
Okay. It actually says you can convert your garage to a unit.
So if I was to have a client who either has a garage conversion or intends to, convert the garage, well, my best option would be to go to the city and determine what their guidelines are for that specific project? Or how could I assist my client to
I think
benefit?
that they would start, I think, with their building and safety department and their planning department, because I think the planning department would have to create the ordinance, right? I'm sorry, the law again. And but every city's supposed to do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your question. We got to move on to somebody else's question here. Thank you so much for your question.
Good afternoon, Frank Williams, and this question is for Alfred. Alfred, I know we were limited on time, but you've definitely showed our family business that we are not too small, we're not too small or big enough, as I was always saying, to be able to use your services to help facilitate different size projects. And I really think it's appropriate, especially for a lot of my colleagues here, with the different development projects that our family business is operating, where you kind of come in and really take on the city if we need help, because there's other things that we didn't have time to talk about, CEQA and other possible infringes that might spar our benefit, because let's face it, in the communities of color, it seems like that's where they really want to put the warehousing of these projects. So if you can help elaborate on that.
Oh, sorry. It's on. Go ahead.
Me quitaron el micrófono, so no, ya no puedo hablar. Thank you, Frank. I think that's an important point. For me, I always learned, I grew up in Boyle Heights. I had the benefit of being able to graduate from Roosevelt High School and go to college and then go to law school. And I've always thought about the importance of, it takes a village. It's the importance of being able to be strategic about how you leverage your resources. And for me, I think the big gap that I see sometimes for Latinos or some real estate professionals that might be working on a different scale that I typically handle in terms of larger projects is that it doesn't matter the size of the project, there's going to be complications. And I always enjoy the ability to leverage the experience that I've had on major projects for smaller scale projects. And not being afraid of being able to pick up the phone and call a lawyer or another expert to help you sort of navigate those pieces. It may simply be actually as simple as having a conversation and a brainstorming session about what those issues might be and how you might get to a solution that I have perhaps worked on in a major project. Even in the affordable housing space as well. Simply because we're building affordable housing, and Maria knows this all too well, it doesn't mean that the project is less complicated or less difficult in terms of navigating through the building permit process or otherwise. And I want to emphasize the prior point, and it relates to Frank's point, which is I am sure that every day you guys are thinking about how do you create additional value for your clients, right? What more can you do to stay on top of your client needs and have a competitive advantage over other peers in the marketplace? And I think really honestly the way to do that is to think about how else they can build on their property, whether it is a conversion of a garage or whether an accessory dwelling unit that can generate additional income for your clients, or whether it is thinking about all the special programs that the city has adopted to expedite the permitting process, or it is what I found useful for my clients, a case management consultation that actually just costs $150 for your clients to come in and get a full suite of experts from the city to advise them on the reuse of their property that could actually save them a lot of money and a lot of time. And simple things like that, and having kind of creating a toolbox for your clients, for them to be able to use, and for you guys to advertise for your businesses, I think is really an interesting way to maybe create additional competitive advantage también. So thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Alfred. And absolutely mixed use, right? You're an expert on mixed use, so that too. I think we're done, right? Yeah, I want to personally thank NAHREP. I want to thank Bank of America, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. I want to thank my panelists, Kristen, Alfred, Maria. Thank you very much for being here. Don't forget, this event is ongoing. The sponsors are here, but absolutely the booths, please visit them. And next we're going to have another panel, right? With that, I'm going to say goodbye. No, yours and mine are not. Yours and mine are not working. Hello. 2 mics are not working over here. Hello. I think. Hello. Hello. Over there. You? Are you working? Cool. Is your mic?
Is it on? Okay, great. All right. Well, another round of applause for our first panel. Thank you. And so before you guys leave, Alfred, Kristen, we're going to present you a certificate in appreciation for supporting NAHREP Los Angeles. We're going to go along the line here. So first with you, Gabriela, for being a great moderator. So here's the certificate for that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely. Totally appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you very
Yeah,
much.
okay. Honorable applause. Oh, Gabriela, real quick.
Is this working? Yes, now it's working. Right, let's get together for a picture, please. Oh, before.
Let's do the all one group picture. So
Yes.
the next one is Maria Cabildo. Great. Alfred Frejo Jr. Great job. And Kirsten Chen.